on, family? It's your man B Miles coming to you live once again with another video from the B Miles 84 Conscious channel. I actually want to come to y'all with another video, man, I actually want to talk about the X-Men origins, which is, the civil rights movement. And I'm actually going to read some of the notes from the article, and I'm going to leave the article in the description box so you can also do further research on your own, okay? This video I've been wanted to make, but I just wanted to do more research and just really bring this to y'all because this is another great story. Now, they were said the X-Men characters were informed by the civil rights struggles of the 1960s. Stan Lee said, through stories of characters who were demonized by the public as the terrified other, Lee drove home a messages of tolerance and acceptance while rejecting demonization and bullying. He also says, quote unquote, he said, those stories have room for everyone, regardless of their race, gender, religion, or the color of their skin, Lee said. And, coming out of that idea, they said the greatest manifestation of the idea was the X-Men. X-Men was introduced in September 1963. The X-Men were a team of teenage mutants, mutants, who were actually led by their teacher and mentor, Professor Charles Xavier, who fought super criminals and other mutants, led by Magneto Benton, who was the destruction, Magneto, who was, other mutants, who were led by Magneto, who were bent on the destruction of humanity. But rather than being, black and white battle between good and evil, the X-Men had a wrinkle. They were saying that the mutants, pretty much were hated by the quote-unquote normal humans they defended. It is only made them different, but it was a good metaphor for what was happening with the civil rights movement at that time. The metaphor extended to the characters themselves with Professor X and his vision of harmonious human mutant coexistence, standing in front, standing in for, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. So they pretty much saying Professor X, he was the metaphor to Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. And they saying while Magneto's rigid attitude towards the defense of mutant kind reflected the philosophy of Malcolm X. So Martin Luther King was Professor X and Malcolm X was Magneto. They said the Sentinels, a brand massive mutant hunting robot, were introduced 2 years later. Readers watch on TV as black Americans were beaten and abused by white police officers. It said the X-Men was probably the most explicit political, cartoon of the 60s of the Marvel Comics. Now, they also said in 1966, Lee and his X-Men collaborator, quote-unquote, King Kirby, was engaged with racial equality when they created the Black Panther. It's black superhero who was the king of the fictional Wakanda African nation. Lee made his most explicitly statement on the civil rights and acceptance. He goes on to say bigotry and racism are among the deadliest social ills plaguing the world today. He wrote in 1968 of December. He also goes on to say it's totally irrational, patently insane to condemn an entire race, to despise a nation, to vilify an entire religion. Sooner or later, we must learn to judge each other on our own merits. Sooner or later, if a man is to be ever worthy of his destiny, we must fill our hearts with tolerance. So the whole entire X-Men origins came from the civil rights movements, and Stan Lee actually created that idea, based on the real life characters of our heroes. During the 1960s, Dr. Martin Luther King, who was Professor X, and Malcolm X was Magneto, and black people were the mutants. So pretty much the allegory and the metaphor of the whole entire thing is just really amazing. And I did not know this until I read this a couple of years ago. I've been wanted to bring the video, but I was just diving more into research. But this is something else. It's amazing. But I had to come to y'all with this video, man. Spread thoughts up on this, shed light up on the situation. I felt the need that y'all had to hear this subject. Keep on liking and subscribing to my channel. Always appreciate the love. And don't forget to hit the bell to get all of my notifications. And this your man B Miles coming to you live once again from the B Miles 84 Conscious channel. One love once again. Peace.